The vast chamber of the Galactic Council hushed as the human delegation entered. The circular room stretched hundreds of meters across, with rising tiers of seats filled with representatives from over 200 advanced civilizations. Floating platforms carried smaller alien species, while environmental bubbles contained those who breathed different atmospheres. Light filtered through crystal panels overhead, casting rainbow patterns across the polished stone floor where the humans now stood. Jack Martin, lead diplomat of Earth, stepped forward. He was a tall man with graying hair and the weathered face of someone who had spent decades in difficult negotiations. Behind him stood 4 other humans, each chosen for their expertise. Tom Wilson, Earth's top physicist; Maria Lopes, their military strategist; Ben Taylor, cultural liaison; and Lisa Green, xenobiologist. They wore simple blue uniforms that looked painfully basic compared to the ornate, technology-enhanced garments of the alien representatives. "We thank the Council for granting Earth this audience," Jack said, his voice firm despite the intimidating surroundings. "Humanity is ready to join the galactic community as full members." A low rumble of whispers spread through the chamber. Elder Krell, the ancient reptilian who led the council, leaned forward on his massive throne. His scales glittered with embedded technology, and his 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Show us your flagship, humans," Krell commanded, his translator making his harsh native tongue sound smooth. "Let us see the best technology Earth has to offer." Tom stepped forward and activated a small device. A hologram appeared above the humans, showing a spacecraft that looked almost primitive by galactic standards. It was bullet-shaped, with visible thrusters and antenna arrays. Solar panels extended from its sides like wings. "This is the Explorer, our most advanced vessel," Tom explained. "It can reach 1/10 light speed and sustain a crew of 20 for up to 5 years." The silence lasted 3 seconds before the laughter began. First came snickers from the Borilians, a race of gaseous beings whose transparent containment suits rippled with their amusement. Then the 12-limbed Vex delegates began a clicking sound that their translator identified as derision. Soon, the entire chamber echoed with the various sounds of alien mockery. "This is a joke," called out Ambassador Drav of the Xinthan Empire, his metallic voice cutting through the noise. "My people's pleasure yachts have more advanced technology than this museum piece." Jack's face remained impassive, though Maria's hand tightened into a fist at her side. Elder Krell raised a clawed hand, and the chamber gradually quieted. "Humans," he said, not bothering to hide the amusement in his voice, "the Galactic Council requires member species to contribute to our collective knowledge and defense. What exactly would Earth bring to this alliance? We offer our creativity, our determination, and our unique perspective," Jack replied calmly. "Humanity has overcome many challenges. Challenges you created yourselves," interrupted a floating sphere that contained a luminous jellyfish-like creature. "Our observers have watched your planet destroy its own ecosystems and wage wars over primitive resources." More laughter rolled through the chamber. Lisa stepped forward. "We have made mistakes, yes, but we've learned from them. Enough." Elder Krell cut her off with a dismissive wave. "The Council has reviewed Earth's application and finds it premature. Return to your solar system, humans. Perhaps in another century or 2, you might have something valuable to offer." The delegation stood rigid as the dismissal washed over them. Jack gave a formal bow. "We understand. Thank you for your consideration." As they turned to leave, the mocking laughter followed them. What the Council couldn't see were the small smiles the humans exchanged as they exited the chamber. None of the advanced aliens noticed the subtle device Ben activated as they walked away, a device that looked like an ordinary communicator but was something else entirely. Something that would change everything. The underground facility stretched for miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, invisible to the scanning technology of even the most advanced alien observers. Jack Martin and his team stepped out of the elevator after their return to Earth, the fake smiles they had worn in front of the Council now replaced with determined expressions. They fell for it completely, Tom said as they walked down the gleaming corridor. Security doors hissed open automatically, recognizing their biometrics. Their arrogance makes them blind. Arrogance is a weakness we counted on, Jack replied. Every alien race out there believes they've mastered the universe because they've mastered three-dimensional space. None of them have looked beyond. The corridor opened into an enormous cavern that housed the true work of humanity for the past 50 years. Thousands of scientists and engineers moved with purpose around a ship unlike anything the Galactic Council had seen. The vessel, called the Pathfinder, had no visible engines, no apparent weapons systems, and a hull that seemed to shimmer between states of matter. Director Helen Reed waited for them on the observation deck. She was older than Jack, with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that missed nothing. As head of Earth's Dimensional Research Division, she had overseen the greatest secret in human history. "Welcome back," she said. "I watched the council meeting through our quantum relay." Their laughter was predictable. "How close are we?" Jack asked, looking down at the Pathfinder as technicians swarmed around it. Helen smiled. "We're ready." The team followed her into a secure briefing room, where holographic displays showed the ship from multiple angles. But these were not ordinary displays. They showed the vessel existing simultaneously in different dimensional states. "For 30 years, Helen explained, we've known that advanced alien civilizations were watching Earth. Instead of announcing themselves, they studied us like specimens. We found their monitoring devices, and rather than destroying them, we used them to our advantage." She gestured, and the display shifted to show images of human history over the last 5 decades. Wars, pollution, seemingly slow technological progress. We gave them exactly what they expected to see, a primitive species struggling with basic problems. Meanwhile, our real work happened here and in facilities like this around the world. Tom stepped forward and activated a complex simulation. The aliens understand space travel through conventional means, warping three-dimensional space or creating artificial wormholes, but none of them have discovered what we found. The simulation showed a mathematical model that ordinary human minds could barely comprehend, a way to access higher dimensions beyond the familiar three. "The seventh dimension exists perpendicular to time itself," Tom continued. "The Pathfinder doesn't just move through space. It moves between dimensional planes. It can appear anywhere instantly, pass through solid matter, and generate energy fields that three-dimensional physics can't explain." Maria, the military strategist, pointed to another display showing the Explorer, the decoy ship they had presented to the Council. "This ship is genuine enough. We built it to be scanned and verified." But its real purpose was to reinforce their belief that humans are technological infants. "What about the Council's surveillance?" Ben asked. "Won't they detect the Pathfinder when we launch?" Helen shook her head. "The Pathfinder exists partially in the 7th dimension already. Their sensors are incapable of detecting it. To them, it's like trying to see sound." Lisa looked troubled. "Are we certain this is necessary? Couldn't we try again to communicate peacefully?" Jack's face darkened. "We've monitored their communications for decades. The Council isn't a peaceful alliance. It's a predatory organization. Advanced races exploit weaker ones for resources and labor. Their discussion after we left made their intentions clear." He brought up a translated transcript of the Council's private meeting. Words like resource extraction, colonization potential, and minimal resistance expected jumped out from the text. "They're coming," Jack said grimly. "A Xynthan battle fleet has already entered our solar system, hiding behind Jupiter. They plan to claim Earth within the week." Helen nodded. "Then it's time for humanity to step out of the shadows. Prepare the Pathfinder for launch. The galaxy thinks we're helpless children. They're about to discover how wrong they are." The Xynthan fleet appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. Over 300 warships, their hulls gleaming with metallic scales and energy weapons already charged. The massive vessels dwarfed anything humanity had publicly displayed. the flagship alone nearly the size of Manhattan Island. Regular broadcasts across the planet suddenly cut out, replaced by the image of Admiral Grek, Supreme Commander of the Zinthon forces. His metallic skin reflected the harsh lighting of his command center, 6 eyes blinking in sequence as his translator converted his clicking speech into human language. "People of Earth," he announced, mandibles spreading wide, "your planet now belongs to the Zinthon Empire. Your resources are claimed in the name of galactic progress. Resistance is unnecessary and will result in widespread destruction." In homes and offices around the world, people watched in horror as alien dropships began descending through the atmosphere. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session, while military forces worldwide scrambled fighter jets that everyone knew would be useless against such advanced technology. "Send the signal to surrender," the UN Secretary-General said grimly to her staff. "We must prevent unnecessary loss of life while we negotiate terms." The Zinthon ships formed a pattern above major cities: New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, Tokyo, and dozens more. Smaller vessels deployed what looked like floating platforms that hovered 300 meters above the ground. From these platforms, beams of light shot downward, creating columns that reached the surface. "They're establishing control zones," explained a frantic news anchor on one of the few channels still broadcasting. "Reports suggest these energy fields can disable all electronics and, wait, we're getting footage from Paris." The screen switched to shaky video, showing hundreds of humanoid robots marching down the Champs-Élysées. The mechanical soldiers moved with perfect precision, their featureless faces swiveling to scan buildings and people. Similar scenes played out in cities worldwide. In the underground facility, Jack stood with Helen, Tom, Maria, Lisa, and Ben in the command center, watching multiple screens displaying the invasion. "Just as we predicted," Maria said, her voice tight. "They're following standard Zinthon invasion protocol: display of force, deployment of suppression fields, and then ground troops to secure resources and subjugate the population." The council knew about this. Lisa asked, watching civilians running in panic from the robotic soldiers. Jack nodded grimly. "They not only knew, they authorized it. Our deep space monitoring stations intercepted their communications. Earth was officially designated as a Class C developmental world, approved for resource extraction and limited population preservation." "Limited population preservation," Ben repeated. "They plan to keep just enough humans alive to use as labor." Tom turned from the screens. "The Explorer just transmitted its distress call. The Zinthons will destroy it any minute to demonstrate their power." On cue, one of the screens showed the Explorer, Earth's supposed flagship, attempting to flee from the alien armada. A blast of energy from the Zinthon command ship struck it squarely, vaporizing the vessel instantly. "Admiral Grek will now make his final demands," Maria said with certainty. "It's their psychological warfare tactic: demonstrate power, eliminate hope, then offer limited mercy in exchange for complete submission." As predicted, Admiral Grek's face appeared on screens worldwide again. "Your pathetic attempt at resistance has been eliminated," he announced, as footage of the Explorer's destruction played beside him. "To avoid further consequences, your world leaders must surrender at these coordinates within 1 Earth hour. Those who comply will be treated fairly. Those who resist will be eliminated." In cities across the planet, the robotic ground forces began setting up processing stations where terrified humans were being scanned and classified. "The Zinthons think they're being merciful," Helen said, disgust evident in her voice. "Their records show they typically eradicate 70% of a population during conquest. They consider saving 30% to be generous." Jack looked at each member of his team, determination hardening his features. "We've let this go far enough. The Zinthons have shown their true nature to humanity and confirmed everything we discovered about the Council's practices." He turned to Helen. "Is the Pathfinder ready?" Helen nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. "Fully operational. Crew is standing by." "Then it's time," Jack said, walking toward the exit. Let's show them what happens when you threaten Earth. Deep within the mountain complex, the Pathfinder waited in its massive launch bay. Unlike conventional spacecraft, it had no need for traditional launching mechanisms. The vessel resembled a smooth teardrop, its surface shifting between deep black and translucent states, as if it couldn't decide which reality to exist in. No visible seams marred its perfect form. No thrusters or weapon systems protruded from its hull. Jack and his team walked through the final security checkpoint, their identities confirmed by quantum signature scans that went beyond simple biometrics to verify their actual atomic structure. All personnel are on board except for command staff, reported Chief Engineer Frank Morris, meeting them at the entrance portal. Final dimensional calibrations are complete. What's the status of the Xynthan ground forces? Jack asked as they moved through the ship's main corridor. They've established control zones in 47 major cities, Maria answered, checking her datapad. Their processing centers are categorizing humans by physical capability and intelligence metrics. They're being efficient. The team entered the command center, a circular room dominated by a holographic display that showed Earth and the invading fleet from multiple perspectives simultaneously. The display also contained impossible angles and views that made most people dizzy, representations of how the situation appeared from higher dimensional planes. Dimensional drive status, Helen asked as she took her station. Fully synchronized, Tom replied, his hands moving across controls that responded to both touch and thought. Seventh dimensional anchors are stable. We can shift at your command. Jack took the central position, looking around at the assembled team. Beyond them, 50 other crew members, the best minds from across the globe, manned various stations around the circular chamber. Humanity has prepared for this day for decades, Jack said, his voice carrying through the command center. While the world saw us fighting among ourselves, the best minds from every nation worked together in secret. Today, we reveal the truth, not just to the Xynthans, but to the entire Galactic Council. He nodded to Helen, who activated the ship-wide communication system. This is Director Reed. Prepare for dimensional shift. All personnel secure for 7th dimensional transit. The lights in the command center dimmed slightly as power redirected to the dimensional drive. Around the ship, crew members felt a subtle sensation, not discomfort, but a strange feeling as if their bodies were suddenly aware of existing in more directions than previously known. Begin ascent sequence, Jack ordered. Unlike conventional launches with roaring engines and explosive force, the Pathfinder simply changed. The mountain above them remained solid, but the ship now existed partially in a dimension where solid matter in three-dimensional space was as permeable as fog. On the surface, Xynthan sensors detected nothing as the Pathfinder rose through solid rock, emerging into the open air miles above the facility. The ship hovered, unseen by any conventional detection system, observing the invasion below. They can't see us, Tom confirmed, checking readings. We're 83% shifted into the 7th dimension. To their sensors, we're completely invisible. What about the Council? Lisa asked. Are they watching? Ben nodded, reviewing intercepted communications. 17 Council observation vessels are positioned at the edge of our solar system. They're monitoring the Xynthan invasion as expected. According to their communications, several Council races are already negotiating for resource rights to Earth. Jack's expression hardened. Let's make our presence known, but only to Admiral Grech for now. I want to see his reaction. Shifting to partial visibility, Tom acknowledged, adjusting the dimensional controls. Moving to position directly above the Xynthan flagship, the Pathfinder accelerated with impossible speed, crossing thousands of miles in seconds without producing any sonic boom or energy signature. It positioned itself directly above Admiral Grech's massive vessel. Phase matched their detection systems, Jack ordered. Let them see us, but only us. Tom made the adjustments, bringing the Pathfinder just far enough into three-dimensional space to be detected by the Xynthan flagship's sensors. On the Xynthan command ship, alarms suddenly blared. Admiral Grek looked up from where he had been reviewing human processing reports. "What is happening?" he demanded. His science officer stared at the readings in disbelief. "Admiral, something has appeared above us. It wasn't there a second ago. No approach vector, no energy signature. It simply materialized." "Impossible," Grek snarled. "Show me." The main screen activated, showing the Pathfinder hovering silently above them, its surface rippling with impossible geometries. "Open a direct channel to Admiral Grek," Jack said calmly. "It's time to introduce ourselves properly." Admiral Grek stared at the mysterious vessel hovering above his flagship. His 6 eyes blinked rapidly in confusion and growing concern. Nothing in his 3 centuries of military experience had prepared him for this scenario. "Magnify that ship," he ordered, mandibles clicking nervously. "Run full spectrum analysis." His science officer, Vex, frantically worked the controls. "Sir, our sensors cannot lock onto it properly. It seems to flicker in and out of conventional detection. The shape keeps changing slightly, as if parts of it exist somewhere else." "Weapons status," Grek demanded. "Targeting systems cannot maintain a lock," the weapons officer reported. "The targeting computers keep reporting spatial contradictions." The main screen on the bridge suddenly activated on its own. Jack Martin's face appeared, calm and composed. "Admiral Grek of the Zinthan Empire," Jack said. "I am Jack Martin, representative of Earth. We request the immediate withdrawal of all your forces from our planet." Grek's mandibles spread wide in what passed for laughter among his species. "You are in no position to make demands, human," he replied. "Your planet is already under our control. Whatever trick you're using with this single vessel will not change that." Jack smiled slightly. "This is no trick, Admiral. This is the Pathfinder, humanity's actual flagship. What you destroyed earlier was merely a decoy designed to reinforce your misconceptions about us." "Impossible," Vex interjected. "Our intelligence reports confirmed Earth has no advanced technology. Your species is still using primitive combustion engines and silicon-based computing." "That's what we wanted you to believe," Jack explained. "For decades, we've been aware of your observation posts. We fed you exactly what we wanted you to see while our real work happened elsewhere." On the Pathfinder's command deck, Tom leaned toward Jack. "They're attempting to scan our dimensional drive. Should I block it?" "No," Jack replied. "Let them try to understand. It will help make our point." Admiral Grek was receiving urgent reports from his science team. "Sir, the energy readings from that vessel are impossible. They suggest the manipulation of dimensional constants that our physics says cannot be altered." On the screen, Jack continued. "Admiral, your civilization has mastered 3-dimensional space travel. The Galactic Council as a whole has begun to explore the 4th dimension for faster-than-light travel. But humanity took a different path. We looked beyond to the 7th dimension." As he spoke, the Pathfinder began to shift more fully into 3-dimensional space, becoming completely visible to all Zinthan vessels. Its surface rippled with mathematical equations and geometric patterns that seemed to bend reality around them. "Send the visual feed to all ships," Grek ordered, his voice lower now. "And open a channel to Council headquarters." On Earth's surface, the robotic Zinthan soldiers suddenly froze in place as their control signals were interrupted. Humans being processed in detention centers watched in confusion as their captors became immobile. In space, the Pathfinder began to glow with an inner light that defied conventional vision. Looking at it directly caused a strange sensation, as if one's mind was trying to perceive more directions than it was built to handle. "The 7th dimension exists perpendicular to both space and time," Jack explained to the increasingly disturbed Admiral. "It allows us to exist partially outside conventional reality. Your weapons cannot target what doesn't fully exist in your dimensional plane." "This is some sort of illusion," Grek insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. Jack shook his head. "To demonstrate that this is no illusion, we will now disable your ground forces." Tom activated a sequence on his control panel. The Pathfinder pulsed once, sending a 7-dimensional wave that passed through normal space like light through glass. When it reached Earth, every Xanthan robot simultaneously collapsed, their advanced neural networks scrambled by energies they weren't designed to process. On the Xanthan flagship, panic was spreading as reports flooded in from ground forces. Admiral Greg's composure was cracking. "What have you done?" he demanded. "We've simply adjusted their operational parameters using 7th-dimensional mathematics," Jack explained calmly. "No destruction, just neutralization. We could have done the same to your fleet, but we wanted to talk first." In the background, Greg's communication officer spoke urgently. "Sir, we're receiving an emergency transmission from the Galactic Council. They're demanding to know what's happening." Jack smiled. "Perfect timing. Please, put them through. I believe it's time for humans to properly introduce themselves to the galaxy." The face of Elder Krell appeared on the shared communication channel, his reptilian features contorted with concern. Behind him, representatives from various council races crowded the frame, their expressions ranging from curious to fearful. "Admiral Greg, explain this interruption to the authorized resource acquisition," Krell demanded, then froze as he noticed Jack on the split screen. "What is the meaning of this? How is a human on this secure channel?" "Greetings, Elder Krell," Jack said calmly. "The Galactic Council should be aware that Earth is not surrendering today. In fact, we're respectfully asking the Xanthan fleet to leave our solar system immediately." Laughter erupted among the council members, though it seemed more uncertain than their previous mockery. "Your primitive species has no authority to make demands," Krell responded, his scales flushing with anger. "Admiral Greg, deal with this interruption and proceed with the operation." Greg's mandibles clicked nervously. "Honored Elder, there have been complications. The humans have technology we didn't anticipate." "Show me," Krell commanded. The view widened to display the Pathfinder hovering above the Xanthan flagship, its surface now pulsing with mathematical patterns that seemed to bend the very fabric of space around it. Silence fell across the council chamber as they stared at the impossible vessel. "What trickery is this?" Krell finally asked, his voice notably softer. Tom stepped forward beside Jack. "This is no trick. This is 7th-dimensional physics, something your civilizations have yet to discover. We can demonstrate if you wish." Without waiting for permission, Tom activated the Pathfinder's dimensional drive. The ship began to shift partly out of conventional space, appearing to fold in on itself in ways that defied normal geometry. It simultaneously existed in multiple locations around the Xanthan fleet, appearing as ghostly echoes that vanished and reappeared randomly. "Impossible," whispered a Borrelian representative, their gaseous form contracting in shock. "Admiral Greg," Jack said firmly, "we have disabled your ground forces without harming them. We now request that you recall your troops and leave Earth's orbit. This is your only warning." Greg turned to his science officer. "Weapons status." "Still unable to lock onto their vessel, sir," the officer replied. "And now our systems are reporting. I don't understand these readings. It's as if space itself is becoming unstable around us." On the Pathfinder, Helen moved to the main controls. "They're attempting to bring their main weapons online," she reported. "All Xanthan vessels are powering up offensive systems." Jack nodded grimly. "Proceed with Defensive Protocol 3. Helen entered a series of commands. 7th-dimensional field expanding now. Around the Pathfinder, reality seemed to ripple like water. A sphere of distorted space expanded outward, enveloping the nearest Xanthan warships. As it touched each vessel, strange effects manifested. Some ships appeared to compress as if being viewed through a powerful lens. Others stretched impossibly thin. A few began to fade from view, becoming transparent. "What's happening to my ships?" Greg demanded, panic evident in his voice. "We're adjusting their dimensional positioning," Tom explained clinically. Your vessels now exist partially in higher dimensions where your technology cannot function. They are unharmed but disabled. Through the view screen, the Council watched in horror as 300 Xanthan warships, the pride of their military, hung helpless in space, caught in dimensional states their builders never imagined possible. "This is just a fraction of what we can do," Jack said quietly. "We've spent decades preparing while you thought us primitive. We could have responded with destruction, as you would have. Instead, we chose restraint." Maria stepped forward. "Our sensors show your observation vessels at the edge of our solar system. We suggest you recall them as well." Elder Krell's reptilian face had lost all traces of arrogance. "What do you want, humans?" "First, the immediate withdrawal of all forces from Earth and our solar system," Jack stated. "Then, a new discussion about Earth's place in the galactic community, as equals, not as a resource to be harvested." "And if we refuse?" Krell asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Helen touched another control. The dimensional field pulsed once, and a Xanthan cruiser simply vanished, transported entirely into a higher dimension invisible to three-dimensional beings. "That ship now exists in the 7th dimension," Jack explained. "We can bring it back, or not. The choice is yours." Silence fell across all channels as the galaxy's most powerful civilizations confronted a truth they never expected. They were no longer at the top of the technological hierarchy. 1 week after the Xanthan retreat, the Pathfinder hovered in Earth's orbit, visible to everyone below as a shimmering teardrop against the blue sky. The ship had become a symbol of hope and pride for humanity, who now understood they were not alone in the universe, and not defenseless. Inside the vessel's command center, Jack and his team prepared for the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. The Galactic Council had requested an emergency session, and for the first time, Earth would participate not as a petitioner, but as a power to be reckoned with. "Dimensional projection systems ready," Tom confirmed, adjusting the controls. "We'll be able to appear in the council chamber while physically remaining here." "What's the status of our global defense network?" Jack asked Maria. "Fully operational," she replied. "We've deployed 7th dimensional sensors around the solar system. No ship can approach without our knowledge, whether they use stealth technology or not." Helen studied the latest reports from Earth's governments. The public reaction has stabilized. After the initial shock, people are adjusting to the news that we've been developing advanced technology in secret for decades. "And that we're not alone in the universe," Ben added, though the attempted invasion made that part clear enough. "Are we sure about this approach?" Lisa asked, looking at the diplomatic proposal on her screen. "We could demand more. We have leverage now." Jack shook his head. "Revenge isn't our goal. Creating a better galactic community is. We've seen what happens when advanced civilizations exploit others. We won't become what we fought against." The main display activated, showing the Galactic Council chamber filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Elder Krell sat in the center, flanked by the Council's leadership. The mood was somber, nothing like the mocking atmosphere of their previous meeting. "Initiating 7th dimensional projection," Tom announced. The team felt a slight tingling sensation as their images were transported across space, appearing as solid holograms in the council chamber. Unlike conventional projections, these were created through dimensional manipulation, making them seem physically present while their bodies remained on the Pathfinder. Elder Krell rose from his seat as the humans appeared before him. The chamber fell silent. "Representatives of Earth," he began, his voice lacking its former condescension, "the Galactic Council acknowledges your unexpected capabilities. We have convened to discuss the future relationship between Earth and the interstellar community." Jack stepped forward. "Thank you, Elder Krell. Earth comes seeking neither dominance nor revenge. We wish to establish a new foundation for galactic cooperation, one based on mutual respect rather than exploitation." "Your demonstration was convincing," Krell admitted. "The Xanthan ship you displaced has been returned safely, we note." We had no desire to harm anyone, Jack replied. Our technology is defensive by nature. A meridian delegate, a crystalline being that shimmered with inner light, spoke next. You deceived the Council about your technological capabilities for decades. Why should we trust you now? We deceived you because your observation posts on the edge of our solar system showed us exactly how you treated primitive civilizations, Maria answered. Your own records documented hundreds of worlds stripped of resources, their populations enslaved or displaced. Murmurs spread through the chamber as many representatives shifted uncomfortably. What do you propose? Krell asked, bringing the discussion back to the matter at hand. Jack gestured, and a series of holographic documents appeared in front of each council member. The Earth Accords, he explained, a new framework for interspecies relations based on 3 principles: sovereignty, ethical exchange, and mutual advancement. The council members reviewed the documents, their expressions ranging from surprise to thoughtful consideration. This first section, a Boryllian representative noted, their gaseous form swirling with interest, prohibits technological suppression of developing worlds. Yes, Ben confirmed. All civilizations deserve the chance to advance on their own terms, without interference or artificial limitations imposed by others. And this requirement for resource extraction compensation, asked a Vex delegate. Fair payment for resources taken from any world, Jack explained. No more exploitation of planets deemed primitive or pre-spacefaring. Elder Krell studied the proposals carefully. Some will say Earth is imposing these terms through force, through fear of your 7th-dimensional technology. We prefer to see it as creating a more just galaxy, Jack replied. But yes, Earth will defend these principles. We've seen the alternative. Lisa stepped forward. As a show of good faith, we're prepared to share some of our non-military 7th-dimensional research with the Council. There are medical and environmental applications that could benefit all species. A ripple of surprise moved through the chamber. The choice is yours, Jack concluded. Continue as before, treating younger civilizations as resources to be harvested, and face Earth's opposition, or embrace a new way forward together. Elder Krell looked around the chamber, at the faces of hundreds of species from across the galaxy. The mocking laughter that had greeted humans just weeks before was nowhere to be found. In its place was something new: respect. The Council will need time to review these accords, Krell finally said. But speaking for myself, I believe the galaxy is entering a new era, one that begins today. As the human delegation prepared to return their projections to the Pathfinder, Jack looked out at the assembled representatives. We were not the primitives you thought we were, he said quietly, and I suspect there are other surprises waiting among the stars. Perhaps now we can discover them together.